Let me ask you something real. Have you ever followed all the advice, been caring, honest, consistent, and still ended up ghosted, friend-zoned, or stuck in a one-way relationship? You're not broken, and you're not alone. You've just been playing a game no one ever gave you the real rules for. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something most men never hear. The 7 silent mistakes that quietly destroy your chances with women. These aren't mistakes because they're rude or wrong. They're dangerous because they kill attraction. They dissolve respect. And worst of all, you won't even know it's happening until she's gone cold. The truth is, modern men have been sold a fantasy. You've been told to be endlessly accommodating, always available, never intimidating. But no one explains how that looks through a woman's eyes in real life. They won't tell you when they start losing interest. They'll just drift while you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? This stops now. What you're about to hear isn't about manipulation or cheap tactics. It's about clarity. It's about understanding human dynamics, masculine energy, and the psychology of attraction in a world that's left men confused and disarmed. These 7 behaviours are the hidden landmines that push women away. No drama, no warning, no closure. Some of what you'll hear today may go against everything you thought was right. It may even challenge your identity. But if you've ever felt blindsided or burned, then what you're about to learn will give you back your edge and your confidence. This is your reset. This is where the guessing ends. If this message speaks to you, support this movement. Hit that like button, subscribe. Join a new wave of men waking up to their power and purpose, men who refuse to be passive, confused, or ignored. Let's step into something stronger. Now let's dive into the 7 truths that will change how you move and how women respond to you forever. Number 1. Stop over-explaining yourself. One of the quickest ways to lose a woman's respect is by falling into the trap of over-explaining yourself. It's a habit many men develop without even realizing it. You say something simple, she questions it, and before you know it, you're explaining every little detail as if you're on trial, desperately trying to justify yourself. But here's the truth. The more you feel the need to explain yourself, the more you're broadcasting insecurity. A man who is grounded in his decisions doesn't feel the need to explain himself all the time. He says what he means. He stands by it. That doesn't mean you become rude or dismissive. It means you communicate clearly and firmly without needing validation or approval. Now think about why most men over-explain. At the core, it's driven by fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being seen as a bad guy. Fear of creating tension or rocking the boat. But here's what actually happens when you over-explain. To her, it feels like you're unsure of what you just said. And if you don't seem sure of your own words, why should she trust or respect them? Over-explaining signals that you're seeking approval or trying to manage her emotions, and that is not strength. It is passivity, and passivity kills attraction. Let's bring this to life with an example. You tell a woman, "I'm heading to the gym after work." She responds, "Why can't we hang out instead?" Now here's where most men go wrong. They start rambling. "Well, I haven't worked out all week. I promised my friend I'd go. I'll only be there an hour. Maybe we can hang out later if you're free." What just happened? You made it sound like you needed her permission to follow through on something that was already part of your life. You showed her that you're easily swayed. You signaled that you would abandon your plans to keep her happy, and over time, even if she doesn't voice it, she will start losing trust in your ability to lead and stand firm. The better move? Keep it simple and grounded. "I'm hitting the gym after work. Let's link up another day." That's it. Direct, clear, no explanation needed. She might still be disappointed. She might pout, but deep down, she will respect you more for standing by your decision. And that respect, not compliance, is what keeps attraction alive. When you stop over-explaining, something powerful happens. You stop giving off nervous, approval-seeking energy. You begin to communicate with quiet confidence. And women respond to quiet confidence far more than to long-winded justifications. Think about the most grounded men you know. Do they explain and justify every decision? No. They speak clearly. They move with intention. They own their choices, even when others may not like them. Bottom line, if you believe in your choices, own them. Don't dilute your words just to soften the impact. Because the moment you start acting like a man who doesn't need to explain himself, you start becoming the kind of man a woman can actually take seriously. The kind of man she respects, desires, and trusts to lead. Number 2, don't try to impress her. Trying to impress a woman is one of the most common traps men fall into, and it's also one of the fastest ways to kill attraction. At first, This might sound surprising. You'd think showing her how successful, intelligent, generous, or interesting you are would make her more attracted to you. But here's the truth. The moment you start trying to impress her, she can sense it. And when she does, the dynamic shifts instantly. She knows that she holds the power in the interaction. You've stopped being the grounded man who moves through life on his own terms. Now you're performing for her attention, and that's not attractive. Women are drawn to men who are centered, calm, and self-assured, not to men who are bending over backwards, trying to prove their worth. Here's why this happens. The need to impress usually comes from a place of feeling not enough deep down. You're worried that who you are isn't sufficient, so you start putting on a show. And women pick up on this much faster than most men realize. Most guys don't even notice when they're doing it. You start casually mentioning your new car, your job, your recent travels, your achievements, because you're hoping she'll see your value. But here's what's really happening. You're placing her on a pedestal. You're acting as if she's the prize you need to win over. And the moment you do that, you flip the power dynamic. You make her the one who is evaluating you, while you scramble to prove yourself worthy. When you approach a woman from this frame, you're no longer leading, you're following. And even if she plays along for a while, over time, she will feel the imbalance and the attraction will fade. Now here's what you must understand. Real attraction isn't built on words, it's built on presence, it's built on energy. A woman is far more impressed by a man who is calm, grounded, and completely indifferent to whether or not she is impressed. That's the paradox most men struggle to grasp. She doesn't want a performer. She wants a man who knows his value and moves through life without needing to broadcast it. When you try to impress, you put pressure on the interaction. You talk too much. You share too much. You do too much. And in doing so, you kill the natural chemistry. Now think about the type of man who walks into a room and commands attention without saying a word. He's not bragging. He's not fishing for compliments. He's not desperately trying to hold the spotlight. He is simply being himself, fully and unapologetically. That's the kind of man women are drawn to. And that's the kind of man you must strive to become. So, if you catch yourself doing or saying something just to provoke a reaction from her, stop. Shift your focus inward. You don't need to sell yourself. You don't need to perform. You don't need her approval. Just be present. Be relaxed. Be unapologetically you, because that's where your real power lies. And that's when she starts to wonder why you're not chasing her like everyone else. That's when you become unforgettable. Number 3, never apologize for being a man. There's a growing pressure on men today, a constant push to tone themselves down, to be softer, quieter, more agreeable, just to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. And somewhere along the way, many men started believing they need to apologize for simply being who they are. Let's get one thing straight. Being a man is not a problem. Masculinity is not a flaw. But the world will do everything it can to convince you otherwise. You'll hear words like toxic masculinity. You'll be told that men need to change. And if you're not grounded in who you are, if you don't stand firm in your identity, you'll start believing it. You'll begin to shrink yourself, not because it's right, but because you want to be accepted. But here's the catch. When you do this, you lose your edge. You lose that natural energy that draws people in, especially women. Because no matter how much modern culture tries to reshape things, one truth remains. Women are still deeply attracted to men who are confident, decisive, grounded, and unapologetically masculine. But when you walk into a room already apologizing for your tone, your presence, or your strength, you're not leading, you're submitting. And a man who constantly submits to the world around him will slowly lose his ability to lead his own life. That's the real danger. Now here's what makes this even more difficult. This conditioning starts early. Many men were raised hearing the same message. Be nice, don't be too loud, don't be too bold, don't be too masculine. So as adults, they second guess everything. They fear being too much, so they settle for being less. But here's the truth that no one will tell you. Less doesn't get you respect. Less doesn't get you desire. Less doesn't get you anywhere. Women aren't looking for a man who walks on eggshells. They're not drawn to a man who constantly questions himself, worried about offending someone with his very existence. They want a man who knows exactly who he is and isn't afraid to stand in that truth. Now, understand this clearly. Owning your masculinity doesn't mean being aggressive. It doesn't mean dominating others. It means standing tall in who you are without shame and without apology. You have instincts, you have opinions, you have desires. Stop hiding them. Stop watering yourself down just to keep the peace, because every time you do, you lose a piece of yourself. A real man doesn't need to be loud or arrogant. He doesn't need to announce himself. He simply moves through the world with certainty, without asking for permission to exist. And when you stop apologizing for being a man, something powerful happens. People react to you differently. Women pick up on that energy almost instantly. They see a man who doesn't need to prove anything, a man who doesn't seek validation. And that's the man they want to follow, trust, and respect. So stand up straight, speak clearly, don't shrink back when your voice carries weight. Masculinity is not something to be embarrassed about. It's something to carry with pride, because when you embrace it fully, you become the kind of man this world is starving for, but far too afraid to admit it needs. Number 4, don't prioritize her over your mission. This one cuts deep, because most men don't even realize they're doing it, not until it's too late. At some point, they meet a woman they genuinely like, and slowly, without thinking, they begin rearranging their entire life around her. Their focus starts to shift. Their priorities begin to change. That burning fire they once had for their mission begins to fade. Before they know it, she's become the center of their world. And here's the hard truth. The moment you make a woman more important than your mission, you lose your power. Not because she's the problem, but because you gave up what made you magnetic to her in the first place. Women are drawn to men who are going somewhere, men who are locked in, driven, and purpose-led. That energy when a man is fully committed to a mission beyond himself, that's what pulls them in. It creates tension, attraction, and respect. But the second you start skipping the gym, blowing off your work, or putting your goals on hold just to please her, the energy begins to shift. You transform from a man on a mission into a man chasing validation. And deep down, she will sense that shift, even if she never says a word. Even if she smiles and enjoys the attention, inside her respect for you begins to erode, because no woman wants to be with a man who has lost his direction. Sure, in the beginning, she might like the comfort and the attention, but over time, the lack of masculine drive, the loss of that edge creates an imbalance she can't ignore. Here's what most men forget. As men, we are wired to build, to create, to pursue something greater than ourselves. That's not arrogance, it's biology, it's who we are. And when you abandon that fundamental drive in order to chase a relationship, you don't just lose your ambition, you lose your identity. You stop feeling like yourself and she stops seeing you as the man she was once drawn to. Now, let me be clear. This doesn't mean you ignore her. It doesn't mean you treat her as if she doesn't matter. It means your mission must always come first, because when you're locked in on your mission, everything else in your life, including your relationships, will align naturally. You will lead. You will provide direction. You will be grounded in something deeper than momentary emotions. And that is what creates true, lasting attraction. Women want to feel like they are a part of your journey, not the reason you abandoned it. When you prioritize your mission, you set the tone in the relationship. She sees you're not going to crumble because she's around. She sees your life has structure, purpose, and meaning with or without her. And here's something every man must remember. When you make her the goal, you stop being a man and you start being a follower. And no matter how much she says she loves you, she will never follow a man who isn't leading himself. So stay on course. Stay focused on your mission. Because the moment you abandon it, you not only lose her respect, you lose your own. Number 5. Avoid constant texting and checking in. If there's one habit that will quietly destroy a woman's attraction for you, it's the urge to constantly text and check in. And the worst part? You won't even notice it's happening until it's too late. It starts off simple. You check in to see where she is, what she's doing, if she's okay, if she's still thinking about you. It feels harmless. It feels like you're showing interest, like you're being attentive. But from her perspective, it often comes across very differently. It can feel needy, overbearing, and eventually suffocating. Now, let's be honest. Most men don't do this because they're naturally clingy. They do it out of fear. Fear that if they don't stay on her radar, she'll lose interest. Fear that if they give her too much space, she'll pull away. Fear that they'll become irrelevant if they're not constantly in her inbox. But here's the truth that so many men miss. Mystery builds attraction. Space creates desire. And constant access, it destroys both. When a woman knows she can get your attention anytime she wants, you stop being a challenge. And once there's no challenge, there's no tension. And without tension, there is no attraction. Think about it. You don't need to send good morning and good night texts every single day. You don't need to double text her if she hasn't responded within 10 minutes. You don't need to keep a running conversation going all day long like it's your full-time job. In fact, the more you do this, the more you signal that you have nothing better going on. And that's not attractive. That's not masculine. That's just boring. Here's a simple mindset shift. Let your actions create presence, not your phone. Let's say you go on a great date with her. You both connect. The chemistry is there. The next day, don't blow up her phone with messages like, "Did you sleep well?" Thinking about you. Instead, focus on your priorities. Live your life. Stay on your mission. Handle your business. Then maybe a day or two later, send a simple, confident message like, "Had a great time the other night. Let's do it again soon." That one message speaks volumes. It shows calm control. It shows you're centered. It shows you're not desperate for her attention. And trust me, she'll notice. Because here's what happens when you stop giving her constant access to your attention. She starts wondering what you're doing. She starts thinking about you. Instead of trying to dodge your endless messages, you flip the dynamic. You stop chasing. She starts leaning in. And here's the mindset I want you to lock in. Stop thinking more texting equals more connection. That's not how masculine energy works. Masculine energy values space. Masculine energy values purpose. Masculine energy values presence. Show her that your time, your focus, and your presence are valuable, not something you give away for free. Because the less you check in, the more she will check for you. That's how you build tension. That's how you maintain attraction. That's how you lead the dance without ever looking like you're trying too hard. Number 6. Stop asking for her approval. One of the most subtle yet damaging ways a man gives away his power is by constantly seeking a woman's approval. And the danger? It often doesn't look obvious. Sometimes it's in the way you phrase a simple question. Sometimes it's in how you react to her facial expression or body language. Sometimes it's in how much you adjust your opinions to match hers. But make no mistake, women feel it. And the moment they sense you're seeking their approval, their perception of you starts to change. Seeking approval is nothing more than another form of insecurity. It's a silent way of asking, "Is it okay for me to be me?" And the second you need a woman to validate your thoughts, decisions, or actions, you're no longer leading, you're following. And here's the truth. Women don't want to follow a man who's asking for permission to exist. Let's be honest, most guys don't even realize they're doing it. You say something, then immediately glance at her face to gauge her reaction. You share an opinion, then quickly soften it just in case she disagrees. You suggest something, then tack on, "If that's okay with you," or "But only if you want to." All of this is approval-seeking energy, and women don't just notice it, they feel it on an emotional level. When you seek approval, you're putting her in a position of authority. You're silently asking, "Please tell me I'm good enough. Please tell me this is acceptable." And over time, that becomes exhausting for her. Not because you're a bad man, but because you're not standing firm in who you are. Now understand this. Attraction is not logical, it's emotional. And when you project approval-seeking energy, you're sending an emotional signal that says, "I doubt myself." You're telling her, "I'm unsure of my value. I need you to validate me so I can feel confident." But here's the paradox. Real confidence never comes from someone else's validation. It comes from within. It comes from knowing exactly who you are, what you believe, what you stand for, and being at peace with it without needing anyone's approval. When you stop seeking approval, you'll feel the shift immediately. Your voice will get calmer, your energy will get stronger, your decisions will become clearer, and the way people, especially women, respond to you will change almost instantly. You will no longer be the guy trying to win her over. You'll be the man who already knows his value, and she gets to choose whether she wants to be a part of it. And that's the mindset you must embody. Not arrogance, not ego, but solid ground beneath your feet, a deep sense of self that doesn't waver every time someone pushes back. You don't need to ask for permission to speak your mind. You don't need her to agree with your opinions. You don't need her to approve of your decisions. What you do need is clarity, conviction, and the courage to live by them even when it's uncomfortable. Because here's the reality, men who stop asking for approval are the ones who start commanding respect. They become the men women are drawn to, not because they need her to like them, but because they don't. They like themselves, and that is the kind of masculine energy that stands out in a world full of approval-seeking men. Number 7. Never chase after she pulls away. This is where so many men completely lose themselves. A woman starts to pull away. She stops texting as much. She seems distant. She stops initiating. And instead of standing firm, most men go straight into panic mode. They start chasing. They call more. They text more. They try harder. They get more emotional, all in an attempt to fix something they don't even understand. But here's the hard truth. When a woman pulls away, the absolute worst thing you can do is to chase her, because chasing her in that moment won't bring her back. It will only push her further away. It will confirm what she may already be sensing, that you're desperate for her attention, that you're afraid to lose her, that your emotional stability depends on her presence. And that is not attractive. That is pressure. Men need to wake up to this. Far too many guys give away all their strength the moment a woman acts distant. They forget who they are. They abandon their dignity. They stop living and start reacting. They watch their phone. They overanalyze every message. They rack their brain trying to find the perfect words to win her back. But here's what you need to understand. You are not winning her back. You're just showing her that she has complete power over your emotions. You're teaching her that she can control you simply by pulling away, and that is a dangerous dynamic to create. You have to stop doing this to yourself. You have to stop giving so much of your energy to someone who is actively creating distance from you. Think about it. Why would you chase someone who is making a conscious effort to pull away? That's not love. That's not strength. That's insecurity. That's fear of rejection disguised as effort. And if we're being honest, many men fall into this trap because they've placed too much value on one woman. They've built their entire emotional world around her, so when she starts to pull away, it feels like everything is falling apart. But here's the reality. It's not falling apart. You've just forgotten who you were before she entered your life. And this is your wake-up call. Stop making women the center of your emotional world. If she pulls away, let her. Give her space. Refocus on your purpose. Keep moving forward. If she is genuinely interested, she will feel your absence. She will notice your silence, and she will come back on her own terms. If she is not, then chasing her would not have changed anything anyway. It would only prolong your humiliation. You do not need to fight for attention that isn't freely given. You do not need to convince anyone to stay. A man who values himself doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He observes. He adjusts. And then he moves forward. Because women are not drawn to men who fall apart the moment things shift. They are drawn to men who remain centered no matter what. So, stop trying to pull her back. When she steps away, let her feel the loss. Let her wonder, and let her come to her own conclusion. Because when you chase her, you give her all the power. But when you stand firm, you remind her and yourself that your value was never tied to her response. Wake up, man. You're the prize. 2. Start acting like it. Most men aren't failing in relationships because they're weak. They're failing because they've been conditioned to act in ways that strip them of their masculine power. They've been told to be soft, to be endlessly agreeable, to always be available. And every time they follow that script, they lose another piece of who they are. Let me say something that might sting, but it needs to be said. A woman will test you again and again, but she will never stay with a man who consistently fails those tests just to please her. You may think you're showing love, but what she sees is a man who can't hold his frame. And once that happens, the respect begins to erode, and attraction goes with it. You don't need to become someone else to keep a woman's interest. You need to become more of who you already are, more grounded, more focused, more unapologetically masculine. That's what builds genuine respect. That's what keeps attraction alive. And that's what makes you the kind of man who leads with presence, not with neediness. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. What's one mistake from this list you've made? Or what challenge are you facing right now that's testing your frame? I check the comments. I respond to as many as I can. This is a space for men who are done playing small and ready to rise. We're not here to complain. We're here to sharpen, strengthen, and lead. If you're ready to step into that version of yourself, let's keep the conversation going below. And if this message spoke to you, if you found value in what you've heard today, hit that like button. It helps this message reach more men who need to hear it. Drop a comment below, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because this space is for men who are ready to stop chasing approval and start leading their lives. We rise together. See you in the next video.